Yes, D really is still mad that Taylor has Kamu and she doesn't. And it's like, I'm sorry, D, that Kamu is not an easy ass hoe bag like Wendell, who D was a side chick for. What's up? Back to talk last night in the Big Brother 28 house. We will start today with Melody being y'all's vote, who got a punishment instead of a power. She is the Lord of the Latrine. She has to announce every time someone's going to the bathroom. I necessarily didn't even want Melody to win this vote because I didn't think that she was going to do anything with the power anyway. But, this fandom votes like idiots. But clearly, this whole thing's rigged anyway. Only the vets have powers so far. And then next week, a possible pet for the vets and Drew might get the other power because y'all vote like idiots. Though I do think low-key production wants the casuals to vote for Kamu. Obviously, I would like Taylor to have the power. I think she's someone that would do something with it. I'll take Kamu over Drew, though. I'll tell you that much. But Melody did talk about how Haley was probably pissed because Haley thought she was going to get the power because she thought people were rooting for her because she's been such a victim. She's been through the mud this whole game so far, The big-ass victim, Haley. Drew was happy for Melody that she got the vote. Maybe Drew is seeing that Melody is kind of popular. I was thinking maybe that's something that can maybe finally change Drew's game because nothing else has. Spoiler alert for the Drew rerun show, it didn't change anything. He's still a doormat for the vets. And that is in spite of Yash throwing D under the bus. How yesterday, when D first had her first chat with new HOH Yash, D immediately tried to throw Drew under the bus and put him up as a pawn. So Drew getting this information, I don't think it really sank in. We'll get to that a little later. D did try to offer Kamu the 5K, the BB bribe. He said no, and D, of course, was ranting about that to Barrett and Kamu and Devens. This had Devens still contemplating trying to get up on the block himself instead of D. My favorite thing about all of this is that D cried to Barrett, and she is finally feeling the game. For weeks, she's been talking about how fun this is. Well, of course it's been fun. Production gave the vets so much protection in the first month that they got a month head start, with the first HOH only being a vet, and then all of these powers as a line of defense, casting these weak-ass bitches like Barrett, who D was crying to. D, it ain't a short game like Survivor, so she was definitely finally filling the game. The vets as a whole were, I think they were scrambling to try and save each other. Devens again pitched about how he would go up on the block and they could backdoor Haley. Devens wanting to, I guess only go up, however, if Yash is going to nominate Angela and Melody next to him, but Yash did not want to nominate Melody, so that was never going to be a good pitch. And I think Devens tried to keep it only half serious with Yash in pitching this. So Devens' plan failed. And if Devens is going to use the veto, he's going to have to use it on D, and it's going to be worse for his game. So we'll see what happens there. Yash let Angela know that she was indeed going up. And so what did Angela do after that? She begged Lala and Taylor not to go up, even though, they're not the HOH, but I guess in Angela's mind forever, that's the group. So Angela went to them saying that she knows that they're good with Yash. So if you're good with me, then don't put me up. You guys are together. Taylor said that what she suggested to him, he already had his mind made up, and that Taylor suggested something totally different, which she did. I don't know if she was really trying to save Angela, though. She was trying to not have Haley on the block, but nonetheless, Taylor wasn't lying there. So yeah, Angela playing the victim with Lala, and Taylor While we're on the subject with Angela and Dee, you know what that means. Yes, with today's Karen Watch, while Angela was trying to get Lala and Taylor to work for her with Yash, even though all she does is Karen it up about them behind their backs, Dee was feeling sad and mad about being on the block. But who was she taking her anger out with her rants? Why, it was Taylor, of course, with a sight of Lala. It was not Yash who put her up on the block. It was not Kamu, who she knows has not only been lying to her for the past week, but has so much information on her. But no, Dee's obsession with Taylor continued, talking about how she's going to call Taylor out. And I was just thinking, call Taylor out on what? Because one of the things Dee and Angela one of their main gripes with Taylor over the past week was that Taylor made Kamu a burger one night. Yes, Dee really is still mad that Taylor has Kamu and she doesn't. And it's like, I'm sorry, Dee, that Kamu is not an easy ass hoe bag like Wendell, who Dee was a side chick for. You're gonna have to come up with a new plan. One of Dee's plans last night was to try and find mutual hate for Taylor in fallow Karen Haley, but that failed. Dee saying that she started to cry when she saw Taylor and Haley, because now it's like, oh, now you want to be nice to Haley. But Haley called Dee out on also icing her out last week, and how it seemed like Dee made a petty "you're welcome" comment when they were working out. Haley saying that Dee didn't talk to her for 4 days before that comment. Also, earlier in the evening, Haley was asking Taylor if she wants to play veto for her, and I think Taylor should, if possible, if Haley gets house guest choice, because Taylor does need Haley to stay this week. But it was good to see at least Dee's Karening failing with Haley over Taylor. So yes, obviously Yash nominated Angela, Dee, and Haley for eviction. Everybody say thank you, Yash. It's what we've been waiting for, because to top off Yash's great HOH, where he actually has huevos, he indeed nominated all three of the Karens together, which could make for quite a storm this week at some point. But more importantly, Yash is the first player not afraid to go against the vets, and he didn't even take Dee's 5K, even though Dee was being cocky yesterday before acting like Yash would do anything for $50. He's definitely going to do this. Well, I'm afraid not. Anyway, we got to stay on Dee, though, because I think she's playing terrible right now. I said last week that her grip on the game was loosening. Well, it's off, and she's going to have to play a heck of a game to fight back socially. Dee knew she fucked up last week when she gave Kamu so much information. She talked about it to the camps afterwards. And right now, who is the person dragging Dee's name through the mud most on a game level? It is Kamu. Kamu has Dee's number, and it's Dee's fault. She got way too comfortable and way too sloppy because of that. But she's now even talking about throwing the veto today to Angela, because she's worried about saving all of the vets this week rather than just worried about herself. And she's doing this because she is so certain that Devens would use his veto on her. And I honestly think his dumbass probably would, even though it would be bad for his game. But I know his gut is telling him to not use it on Dee. That's why he had the whole big plan yesterday to try and get himself on the block, so he could use the veto on himself, because if he uses it on Dee, it's going to make them look like a duo. And it is going to grow Devens' target. And he has to use the veto in a way where he can't mess up his own relations. And some of his better relations right now are to like Yash and Kamu and even Taylor to an extent. So he's in a pickle. But like, here's the real talk. And I've been saying this all along. Without Drew and Barrett just, being something the vets can always seemingly fall back on, they would be toast. Drew and Barrett being stuck up the vets' asses is the only reason the odds are a vet doesn't go home this week. Because It's the first real week that the vets have to not play from the top, and I think they're playing like shit these past 2 days. But they have these two doormats to always fall back on, no matter what. Drew did go to Devens last night with the info that Yash told him about D saying his name to be a nominee this week. Drew asked Devens if D still trusts him or not, and Devens says that he thinks that D does. Drew tried to tell Devens for the millionth time that he is all in with the crossovers. He said they should both talk to D tomorrow, aka today, so we'll see Drew doing more ass kissing today, I'm sure. Drew's game makes no sense. It's hard enough with Barrett, but at least the vets haven't done anything against Barrett. But they treat Drew like their whipping boy, and yet he always just does the same thing, falls back on the vets. It is so old to watch at this point. I can't tell you all how much better this season would have been without Drew and Barrett. Having players that don't play for themselves to win is always hard to watch. But now we have players not only not playing for themselves to win, but playing for vets to win, one of which has won another game before. It really does sour the game overall because it's weak. And frankly, it's a disservice to the newbies who are actually trying to play to win. But there will be a push from this stupid low IQ fan base for Drew to get the power this week. Because, I guess the vets need a third line of defense. They've already had so many lines of defenses. Let's give Drew a power so Drew can also help the vets when more things go bad for them. Drew and Barrett suck. And let me drag Eric Stein real quick. Eric goes on Traders USA 3-episode flop Rob's podcast and talks shit about Jun Song, a former Big Brother winner, who has been doing a lot of hating on Barrett on social media. And this is what Eric Stein had to say about her alleged obsession.
Same thing. Now, as for Jun's obsession specifically, she needs to step away from the live feeds and the Twitter. There are other things going on in the world and in life.
Well, June might dislike Barrett, but I guarantee I dislike Barrett more. So Eric to go on a podcast, which is a podcast about Big Brother, to say there are bigger things happening in life in a condescending way to June. What is Eric Stein going to do to stop the U.S.-Iran war? I would love to hear that. Be fucking for real. All Eric Stein does too on Twitter is talk about Big Brother. So to say that about June is stupid. People get on these podcasts and try and police opinions because they're not used to people speaking the truth. And the truth is Barrett sucks. And I guess maybe the nerd archetype has to stick together because that's what Eric Stein was, but it's the worst archetype on this show. Well, I guess other than maybe the cowboy archetype. Anyway, the two real players that are Yash and Taylor clocked the hell out of the crossovers last night, and it's about time. They clocked the fact that Barrett is the one that ratted out Lala's icons on the block meeting to the icons. They clocked that Barrett and Mallory's game relationship is one-sided, and Mallory cares way more about Barrett's game than vice versa. I don't know how they're going to get that through Mallory's thick skull, though. They clocked that Angela is always turning on people so quickly. They clocked that Haley isn't their real enemy. Yash needed to clock that a lot quicker, though. They clocked that Devens is not as trustworthy either, and that Barrett and Drew are vet minions. Very important clockings here, but they clocked some of this a day late because here's the problem with Yash nominees and why Taylor and Kamu were right to try and convince him to not nominate Haley. If Haley is on the block Thursday, she is likely going. I do not have faith in Melody or Mallory, especially Melody, to wake up and vote out a vet if it's an option. And they damn sure are not going to vote out Barrett if that's the option against Haley. Maybe those two will prove me wrong. I would love that, but I doubt it. Yash also told Taylor about D and how D doesn't trust Taylor. And Taylor said, well, then D needs to go home because what the fuck did I do to her? And that's a great question, Taylor, because I don't know either. I don't know why D is obsessed as she is in Taylor in a personal way. Taylor doesn't even know the extent of D's caring where Taylor is concerned. But it is good that Taylor at least now knows about D and how D feels, because Kamu never told her. Also very important here to the game is that Yash wants to tell Mallory, and Barrett that he gave up the 5K to save them, and that's who D was trying to push up on the block. Very smart. That is something that Yash needs to do today. Yash and Taylor have to spend a ton of time talking game with Mallory and Mallory this week. It's the only way that they are going to be able to keep Haley as a number for them. But of course, we also have to see if Devens uses his power and puts D's game in front of his own, which I'm sure his wife is just thrilled at the thought of. You know, there's so much more I want to say about that, but I will wait and see what Devens does this week before I pull out my roast of Rick Devens.